There have been a lack of videos on my channel as of recent for a simple reason. That reason being that I have just lost my enthusiasm for the game, and quite honestly, the global community for PPP outside of Japan has gone from being, managed and had time and effort put into it to barely hanging on its threads and just falling into utter inanity. So the last 6 months, the game has been in a state of constant mediocrity from the viewpoint of myself, a day one player. So let's talk about why this is. So first off, the gameplay loop of PPP has barely changed as of late. I'm gonna say about the last 6 months, it's just been the same. It's always been furniture or shop event for filler characters, followed by some strange variation of bingo or just some random card that gives about 45 diamonds and character-specific skill tickets for the limited characters. Then you have like 2 or 3 score attacks a month, which are typically easy to get to, at least with the 1.5 million mark. If you've played the game for a month or more, you're able to clear about 95% of the content, and you'll start to see that everything is just regurgitated with a new coat of some expired paint, honestly. Because you'll just be rinse repeating for the same thing. Everything is grossly the same. The endgame content itself is extremely lacking, and the only constant of that is score attack. But even then, there's not enough incentive to go past the 1.5 million mark, which is where most of the rewards lie. Anything else that's worth your time would have to be in the top 200, or you can get at least 2 rainbow chests. Even then, you could potentially just get 6 silver furniture tickets from it, which in of itself is pretty useless to players in that top 200 category. So besides getting likes and retweets from obscure Japanese Twitter, there's not much incentive in-game to get the #1 spot. Furniture points have been utterly useless in the past half year. This is my current furniture point count. I have literally nothing to spend on these because they have not bothered releasing any new furniture in the store. And I'm aware they're probably stalling out content for the sake of stalling out content due to the anime having finished half a year ago, and they just need to stall out content because, you're waiting for the eventual Part 6 release where they can monopolize on that. That being said, the fact that there is no system to convert these points to other useful in-game items like tickets or coins means that once you've cleared out the furniture store, the points just sit there to accumulate dust. And again, you could be like me, repost that image and get likes and retweets from obscure Japanese Twitter. Next, the state of power creep or metagame in the game is also stale. In honesty, I praise the dev team for not just shoving busted time stopper after busted time stopper, but the current alternative is them releasing mediocre time stoppers after mediocre time stoppers. And even for, characters who have no business having that ability design-wise, like the recent Anubis Polnareff. Why does he stop time? Is he that fast? You even have that voice Gyakyo. He literally freezes time. That's kind of a stretch. Before the 15 skill use limit, it was always who had the proper cooldowns and damage capabilities to continually loop their skills back and forth for like an hour. And after the limit was implemented, I don't know, it's exactly the same. It's shorter. And you can put in Diavolo and Voice Joiner on there. That's a new team you can mess with 15 skill limits. But nothing has changed essentially. It's quite stale, and it's also become quite predictable to know what the meta team is for every new season. And it's not even exciting to come up with quote unquote new strategies because they're not new. They're just variations of old ones. So yeah. Lastly, for units in the game, so as they've accumulated a larger volume of units, especially limited units, being a collector has shifted towards being even more pay-to-win oriented than ever. It used to be maybe 1 or 2 limiteds a month, And now it's essentially doubled or tripled. So sure, you have more opportunity to get limiteds now, but you just run out of diamonds. And when the next set of limiteds hit and you spend your diamonds on an old rerun, you're now in that fence of, do I spend money or do I suffer for 6 months knowing they are unattainable for the next 6 months? And then some other old rerun comes back to haunt you, and maybe you saved up for one multi, you cash in, you get jack shit, and rinse repeat the cycle. Then again, this is a gacha game, so the psychology of abusing you and you accepting domestic abuse is not exactly anything new. It's just that it's become more prevalent in this game as it ages. So to summarize the game side of things, it has become your regular gacha game with no new innovation or incentive for long-term players. So I'm just bored, man. I'm bored as fuck. I haven't really quit it, which you can thank Sunken Cost Fallacy for, but I barely complete most of the levels now. I don't really play score tag that hardcore, maybe like 1 or 2 runs. I just play enough to get the diamonds that you can get from normal stages, and I just fuck off, really. Now, as for the PPP community itself, it's kind of gotten insufferable, in my opinion. But then again, so is my opinion of the Jojo fanbase itself. It sort of reminds me of how Undertale used to be back like 5 years ago. Source material itself is, all well and good. I enjoy it, but once you put millions of people into the mix who constantly just spout the same overused jokes and try to force it into every little aspect of any conversation that exists, I just feel this sudden urge to just end it all, man. It's not cool. Anyways, moving on to a more objective thought process on the community. So, on the Discord, moderation-wise, it's kind of gone through some extreme transitional phases. We've gone from overly strict to overly lax. And I was a moderator on this Discord, so I understand the shortcomings of just internet moderation. It's fucking terrible, honestly. So, it's trying to find the middle ground, especially on a large server, is almost nearly impossible without pissing off half of the people in the server. So once you reach the point where mods start to just give up because they're either too strict or they just don't give a fuck, and in this case we went from strict to not giving a fuck. Yeah, the mods will just start to take it easy and let things run its course on its own, and it'll eventually just grind to a halt. I left the moderator position because I personally don't have the time for it now, especially in the future. And it's not rewarding or enjoyable for me to constantly try to achieve this so-called middle ground to, make everyone happy. Especially as the server has, I believe it's gone way past the 10k mark, maybe like 11k, I don't know. But yeah, moderation is now non-existent, and I can understand why, because even I gave up on it. For most veteran and active users who used to help out on the server regarding stuff like new player queries and just, actual game discussion. And when I mean actual game discussion, I mean things that just don't devolve into, force feeding some random topic that isn't related to the game into a chat related to the game. Yeah, that's just that's just Jojo, man. And most of these guys have left for the same reasons I discussed towards the current state of the game. They've moved on, which leaves most new players in a ditch as the new number of trusted sources for information gets fewer and fewer by the day. And then you have people misleading others for funsies, which in and of itself is a fucking dick move and does nothing but make new players fear asking for help. Then they just lose interest in the game, so, cool. No, it's not cool. And content creation for PPP is honestly quite a simple mixed bag for me to explain. You have those who just post score attack runs, like the Winchesters, all those guys, which I'm cool with since it's basically a free walkthrough for the season. And it's also a way to learn of different team strategies that might not align with your own team strategy, so something new and objective game-wise to learn. Then you have the run-on videos where someone spends 20 minutes explaining to me why I should or should not pull on a character, even though you could just summarize that shit in about 3 seconds to a yes or no answer. For those people in this section or caricature of PPP content, please for the love of God, stop doing this. I find it extremely boring, and I think it's boring for most users because you do not need to force feed them stretched out information that like 90% of people already know. If you want an easy to summarize template for whether or not a unit should or should not be pulled, it would be A. Are you a player who is frugal with their diamonds and don't care about collecting all the units? If so, if the unit itself is being used in like, you know, the leaderboards, like the top 500, give or take, it's probably worth pulling on. If you're a player who wants to collect, then the answer is always yes, because you want to collect the units, so you spend your diamonds since you want all the units. That's all you have to do for if you want to make like videos for, you know, advising people to pull things or whatever gotcha shit. You don't have to make a 90-year video with the characters' units' names misspelled, but, you know, you do you. And lastly, the general community as a whole can be summarized with this image. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. But maybe it's just my, you know, personal take on how I view Jojo, or at least the Jojo community now. I don't like it. I've grown all of it, and frankly, large communities kind of sucky. So, you know, yeah, that's all from me, really. Stay safe out there, people. You know, don't be an asshole who spreads the virus around like a dickhead. Just stay at home when you can. Blah, blah, blah. You've heard all this shit. If you have common sense, you'll do it. So yeah, stay safe out there and see ya.